The massive welfare fraud scandal in Minnesota now drawing attention to other states, exposing similar investigations. Administration officials are opening the books on all state programs receiving billions of your taxpayer dollars. Administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, joining us now with a closer look on this. Good morning to you, sir. One program under federal investigation right now is in the state of Maine. So tell us what you're seeing there and how much money could have been stolen from hardworking taxpayers.
Well, we're talking about across the nation, potentially $100 billion. That's a massive amount of fraud, obviously, and all this money could go back into taking care of folks who are most vulnerable, people who really need these services. But this is much bigger than just the money that's being stolen. When you're willing to steal someone's life as well, that's when I really get upset. And what we're seeing in many of these areas, and I'll speak to Maine for a second, you have the ability and the accusations, and there has been some OIG investigations that have been ongoing. It was a report filed 10 days ago to validate these. But essentially in Maine, and this is sort of a cousin to what's going on in Minnesota, similar patterns, local communities sort of owning this problem, taking advantage of the system, folks not policing it from the outside, embarrassment about the fact that sort of awkward discussion, accusations that these might be racially inflicted issues if you go after them, so you sort of shy away, which to me is a real problem because our goal is to take care of the most vulnerable. So you remember in Maine, it's not the autistic children that have been the focus of our concerns. It's folks who are older. So these are people over the age of 19 who also have learning disabilities. And in that setting, there's an ability for fraudsters to actually go into the person's house, take over the house essentially, put them in a closet or put them in a corner, and then not give them the care they need, not give them the food, not nurture them, not monitor them. There have been accusations that police are finding some of these folks outside the home, and they have to be taken back to the home, and when they get to the home, there's no one there taking care of them. These are the kinds of issues that are particularly concerning. But our letter was written about autism services in Maine, which have grown up, have dramatically increased in size, much faster than the actual increase in the number of truly autistic children, which is what happened in Minnesota. Now, what's the cause of this? Well, one possibility, and we know this is happening in Minnesota, is that you have parents being bribed, being given money in order to dishonestly claim their children have autism. Now, here's the concern. If there's one child in the neighborhood with autism, we have services to go take care of that child. There's money that goes to that family. But if every kid in the neighborhood claims they're autistic because their parents say they are, then now you've got no one in the neighborhood actually getting appropriate autism services. Right. And then expand this to what went on in California, where you have a 7-fold increase in services like for hospice. There's no way. It's impossible to have happened. But the amount of money which is being taken out of the system, and just in Los Angeles itself, we believe it's about $3.5 billion. It bankrupts the ability of the system to keep up care of the folks who truly need services.
Right. And you mentioned that some state leaders, well, including Governor Janet Mills there in Maine, Governor Gavin Newsom in California, they try to push back hard, accusing the administration of politicizing these investigations. But what culpability do these state elected leaders have in these schemes? Will they be held accountable?
Well, it's an interesting dilemma. The governor does not sign a document attesting to the veracity of these reports. And so it's very difficult to follow the chain of command. We're looking, I believe, at incompetence, but there could be more nefarious reasons why this is happening. As you probably know, by national law, it's a federal law, if you sign someone up for Medicaid, you also have to offer them voting services. Now, on the face value, that sounds like a reasonable thing to do, but it allows political patronage to be potentially one of the reasons why these state leaders did not pursue fraud when it seemed so brazenly evident it was happening. And I went and visited with employees in the Health and Human Services in Minnesota. I went with the leadership. They're taking this seriously, I hope, although the actions still have not followed their words. But there are whistleblowers within the agency who say, we've been making noise about this for years and nothing was done. In Minnesota, we know Gavin Newsom was aware 3 years ago that there was widespread fraud in hospice because he tried to curtail the number of new hospices, but it didn't deal with the already existing problem. 1/3 of all hospices in America are in Los Angeles. I mean, really? Hospice is for people who are dying. There's no way that 1/3 of all Americans who are dying are in Los Angeles. There should have been a more serious and aggressive effort. And what we're seeing in Maine resembles what I've seen in Minnesota and in Los Angeles. I've been to some of these locations. I'm going to visit all of them. And it's not just happening in blue states. It's happening in red states as well. We need everyone to take this seriously. At least so far, what I'm hearing from some of the red state leaders is that they understand this is a crisis and they're taking it seriously. I want that same degree of passion from the 3 governors we've just mentioned.
Yeah, as you said, you need help from the state, from the top of the state leaders there. Medicare and Medicaid, you mentioned, it's a program for seniors, for low-income families, it's for the disabled. If fraud's drawing tens of billions of dollars a year, what does that mean for the long-term stability of those programs, and what reforms should Congress be considering right now?
It risks the very viability of these services. And remember, Medicaid in particular is the payer of last resort. They're the one that catches you when you're having the major crises in your life. There's a beautiful statement, actually Hubert Humphrey, whose building I'm sitting in now, it's named after him, right across from the Capitol, said, we've got, it's the moral obligation of government to take care of people at the dawn of their life, because 53% of kids are on Medicaid and CHIP. You take care of folks at the twilight of their life, the elderly you see in that hospital bed there, and to take care of those who are living in the shadows, substance use disorder, issues that are holding them back from engaging. We've got to be there for these people. These programs are the crown jewel of our support system for America, and we have to keep them viable. When Americans are worried about affordability and they're being taxed extra high and they're looking at premiums going up, and we're allowing fraud, widespread fraud, to be channeled to other countries, because many of these fraudsters are not Americans, or at least American citizens, right? Many of them flee to other countries when they're caught. We're seeing this with Cuba in South Florida. We're seeing this amongst the Russian mafia in Los Angeles. We see this amongst Somalis in Minnesota. There's other Central African nations involved in Maine. They just go back to their countries when they're accused. We're not catching the bad guys. So my role is to make sure the money never leaves this building. The money stays right here to take care of our most vulnerable, and we don't tax innocent Americans to pay for the mistakes in other states. Because when California allows fraud to happen, guess who pays? New Mexico. They pay extra tax dollars, not a rich state, New Mexico. They pay extra to the federal coffers so we can redirect it to take care of all these problems in California, including, by the way, illegal immigrants.
Well, hopefully you guys can root out all the waste, all the fraud, all the abuse there. Dr. Mehmet Oz, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
God bless you.
You too.